Welcome back to the channel. I'm Reed, and this is Man Cave Guitar Pedal Mania. I'm finally back in the Man Cave. I have completed my Wilkinson Modern-s kit, and I think it turned out beautifully. So, I wanted to give my final thoughts on this kit, and then show you some tones. So, what did I think of the kit? Actually, I think it's a great kit. They advertised that the body was well sanded, and it really was. It needed just a little bit of sanding preparation before applying the stain. As I told somebody in the comments to one video, with a stained finish, you have to get rid of the sanding marks first, or you get all kinds of stain blemishes. It just sinks into those sanding marks. But as you can see, that turned out quite well. Somebody asked about whether the swimming pool route affected the stability of the pickguard. It does not. A pickguard is really not very much surface area, and it's very well anchored, so that is a very stable piece of plastic. Celluloid, I believe. The fretwork on this neck is immaculate. The frets are fantastic. The rosewood fretboard is extremely smooth. This is a great neck. I have built a lot of parts casters out of Warmoth parts, and I would compare this very favorably to a Warmoth neck, obviously without the kinds of optional upgrades that you can get from Warmoth. It's got Wilkinson locking tuners, always appreciated. This Wilkinson two-post tremolo system. I had never built a guitar with a tremolo system before, and I had no trouble building this one, so that was much appreciated. Now, they made some unusual design choices. Rather than having a top-mounted Strat jack like you would expect, it has this cup input on the side. Just an aesthetics thing maybe, or maybe avoiding lawsuits from Fender. Since they've got a very Fender-ish headstock, there's a thing in the store page talking about shaping the headstock so it's more like your favorite guitar. So that makes me think that this is somehow different than a Fender, but it's pretty darn close. One thing that they did not include, which I find very strange, is a string tree. Now, let me try and show you this. You can see how flat those strings are down to the high E and B. There's almost no angle going across the nut. And that's what the string tree does for you, is it puts a downward angle across the nut. That's how you get a clean tone break there at the nut. You don't need them on the first 4 frets because the strings are already angled down. A Gibson-style guitar accomplishes the same thing by tilting the whole headstock back. But the idea is the same. You want to break across the nut. In this case, that string is almost completely straight. I have one other guitar with a Wilkinson tremolo system. It's a Reverend, but the Reverend uses a tilted headstock, so it doesn't need a string tree. So I don't know if that's standard for tremolo systems or not, but I know Fender puts string trees even on their two-post trim systems, so I'm not sure why this kit didn't include a string tree. The instructions are, for the most part, pretty good. You have to pay very close attention to them or you could make some very bad mistakes. And there are some strange omissions. It doesn't say anything about installing the tuners. It doesn't say anything about installing the nut. The nut is a press fit. Usually you use just a tiny drop of glue. In this case, the nut was so tight I had to sand the back of it off to make it fit. And that's not really an issue as long as you're careful to sand flat. But certainly, if it was your first build and you'd never installed a nut before, that might be of some concern. I think the worst thing in the instructions is when it talks about installing the neck. That's in 2 different places in the instructions. In one place it says the holes in the body are intentionally small, so you need to enlarge them to 11/64. That way the screw passes through with no resistance. But the actual holes in the neck, you use a 1/8 inch drill bit. Well, if you didn't read through the instructions all the way first so that you could kind of see the advanced steps, and you thought that it wanted you to drill 11/64 holes into the neck, your mounting screws would simply fall right out and the entire guitar would be not usable. So, I mean, the instructions are not wrong, they're just poorly laid out, and if you're not paying attention, you could end up with some really disastrous results. So, the question everybody has is it worth the money? $450. You can definitely get a cheaper Strat kit. If you go to solo guitars or solo music instruments, you can spec out a Strat kit for less than $200 and then buy an upgraded trim system. The whole thing would come out to still be around $350. They sell these Wilkinson pickups for $11 each. They're not expensive. If you go to BYO Guitar, build your own guitar, BYO Guitar, they have great kits, and you can spec out a very nice kit from them for about $390. This is about $50 more. Now, the BYO guitar does not come with the Wilkinson 2-post tremolo. You can get a classic 6-screw tremolo, but not the 2-post. If you just buy a 2-post tremolo, Guitar Fetish sells this for about $55, and you can get a set of locking tuners for, depending on the brand, between $30 and $40. They're out of all of those things, by the way. Apparently lots of people are building projects while they're stuck at home. You can buy a pre-wired pick guard from Guitar Fetish for about $35. Now, it doesn't have the Wilkinson pickups. It just has, no-name pickups, and it has the cheaper import dime-sized pots. The pick guard that they used, even though, whatever you think of Wilkinson pickups, the electronics are first rate. It's got fantastic pots. It's got a great switch. Switch feels fantastic. I had never built a guitar with a trim system before, and this was really easy. So if you can see, get a little closer to the camera here. Oops, no. That is floating, but it's pretty parallel to the body. And you simply achieve that by tuning it to pitch and then tightening the screws in back. The first time you tune it to pitch, it'll be up like this, and you tighten the screws down and it pulls down, and you go back and forth doing that over and over and over again. I thought about shooting that as a video, but I do these by myself, and I really couldn't get a way to make it look good. I'm just not that good a videographer yet. But I will say I did not have any trouble setting this up. Now, interestingly, this guitar actually has too low of action for me. I still need to dial it in. I am not a finesse player. For those who never watch my intro, I'm just a home player. This is what I do. I have a man cave. I love guitar pedals. I build guitar projects. I'm not a professional, and I'm not a professional player. And I have a really heavy left hand and a really heavy right hand. And I'm used to playing 10s and moderately high action because of that. This guitar, I think, has 9s. The strings were not labeled as to size, so I'm just judging on feel. And it has extremely low action, which is very playable for people who like low action, but I think I'm going to have to raise it or improve my technique. Raising the guitar is easier. So what does the guitar sound like? Well, for one thing, it's quiet. This whole video so far, it's on the neck pickup. And it is live. No background hum. My rig is unnecessarily complicated because this is guitar pedal mania. I love guitar pedals and gadgets. So I am playing right now through a Line 6 G10 relay system. That is going into my Boss ES8 switcher. I am running a SansAmp PSA2 preamp into my Supro Statesman head. So I'm using the SansAmp for all of my tones, and the head is the power amp. I'm using a J-Rocket Archer analog preamp experiment pedal to give it a little secret sauce on the clean channel, and a Boss RV500 is supplying the reverb. So I say clean. Somebody once said that my tone is not really that clean. So now I say this is my non-distorted tone. I'm not really a Strat player. I don't have any guitars with traditional single coil pickups in them. I have some single coil humbuckers, I have some P90s, I have a Jazzmaster. I actually have two Jazzmasters now. But this is my only guitar with traditional single coils, so I don't really have anything to compare them to. I think that sounds pretty good. The fourth position, so we have the bridge and middle. Just the middle by itself. I like the tonal variation between the pickup settings. I don't like guitars that are too subtle when you switch pickup positions. I mean, what's the point of that? Middle and bridge. A little bit spankier, but it definitely sounds a little bit out of phase. It's probably my least favorite sound. And then the bridge by itself. So this is a ceramic magnet humbucker. It's very high output as far as I can tell. I don't really have a way to measure that. But all 5 positions, it's very quiet. Now remember, I did paint the pickup cavity with shielding paint. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. If you're building your own guitar, shielding paint is cheap. It's just graphite in a black paint solution. You paint the inside of your pickup cavity with it. Do it before doing any of the rest of your finish. You can sand off any spills, and you get shielding that way. So let's try a little light overdrive. It's my neck, position 4. Middle position. Position 2. And the bridge. Man, I actually like that bridge pickup, but it's very bright. So, anybody who watched my previous videos where I talked about the pots, these are all 250K pots. Normally those are considered too dark for a humbucker, which is an inherently dark sound, but this pickup, obviously being very high output in ceramic magnets, a very bright pickup, and I would not describe that as dark even with a 250K pot. And then a little bit more medium output. You can maybe hear a little fret buzz. Again, that's because that action is so low and my left hand is applying too much force. So, how does it stay in tune with the tram bar? out. Oh, it went flat. Alright, so actually the low E string went flat. Everything else stayed in tune. And that was some pretty aggressive. I'm just getting into trim bar use. If you just do little wobbles. Stays in tune pretty well. Again, it's set up so it's floating just a little bit so I can pull up. As well as go down. And that's all the movement I need in a tremolo system. So, here's my neck pickup. As you can hear with the higher output, there is some hum, but actually that's not bad at all. I wish I was a really good player like some of my favorite YouTube guys, but that's not really what I do. I mostly play along with other people's music, and I don't want to get copyright infringements, so I don't do that here on the channel. But hopefully, that gives you an idea of how the guitar sounds. I think it looks fantastic. I think the kit turned out very well. For my first ever build with a trim system, it turned out great. I have no complaints about this, and I think it was worth the money. So, let's just talk about the concept of something being worth the money. Could you buy a guitar for $450? Yes, you absolutely could. I think the Squires that are being made now are absolutely phenomenal. And if you want a Gibson style Epiphone has upped their game amazingly. There are lots of other brands on the market. Those are just probably the two most commonly purchased guitars in the world. And yes, you could just go buy a guitar and be done with it. But if you were going to do that, you wouldn't be watching a video about a guy building a guitar. So there is no other guitar like this one on the planet. Even somebody else who buys this kit, they're not going to do my green stain job, the matching headstock. This guitar is unique, and I love that. The wood is phenomenal. I know it's a two-piece body. Somebody commented on they wish it was a one-piece body. I don't think you get any benefits from a one-piece body, but they are more expensive because you have to use more board feet of lumber. If you're doing a clear finish like this, sometimes you notice the join, but really, if you look real close, you can see that there's a line right there where the stain was absorbed just a little bit differently. But other than that, you really don't notice that two-piece join, and it doesn't make any difference in the tone. The neck is phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about this neck. It is very, very good. The fretwork is very good. I was a little disappointed it didn't already have the nut installed, but so be it. The nut is cut well. I am either going to open those slots a little bit or lubricate it perhaps. If you're unfamiliar with the graphite trick, you can just take a pencil, an ordinary writing pencil, and rub a little graphite into the slots of your nut, and that will lubricate it because you don't want friction at the nut. You want the strings to actually move back and forth freely when you use your trim system. You really only want connection at the saddle and at the tuner. This is just breaking off the vibration so that you get the correct note. There were no high spots. Play all the way up the neck. Play high bends. And it doesn't fret out. So yeah, this neck is phenomenal. The body was very good. It's actually pretty light. It finished very, very well. If you buy this with intent to paint, now painting is a very different animal than staining. I stain for reasons that I've mentioned on the channel many times. I have respiratory issues. Paint is very toxic. which is hard to avoid even if you wear a mask. You get the best results with specialized equipment, although you can also use spray paint. But bear in mind, no matter how well sanded a body is, it is wood. And you can maybe see there are little, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not, but there are little micro holes around the edge of the guitar. That's what happens in wood. I don't know, you get little insects burrowing in, or it's just naturally the way that the wood grew. They don't mean anything except they make finishing very difficult. So if you're going to paint and you want great results, you are going to need some grain filler, or if the hole is too big, you can fill it with super glue. You can do so much stuff with super glue when you're building guitars. I personally don't like to do that because then you have to sand it off, and sanding super glue is a pain. So, is this worth it to me? Was it worth the money? I'm going to say yes, because I love the way this turned out. It's not just that it looks good, it's easy to, well, not easy, but it's not too difficult to get a project to look good. But it plays great. This is the first guitar I've ever built where I went, wow, that plays really good with too low of action. I'm actually going to have to raise the action. Normally you're fighting to get the action lower. It stays in tune pretty well. The pickups are growing on me. Again, not really a single coil guy, but I'm learning to like them. The bridge pickup, maybe I would have gone a different way, but I don't dislike the way it sounds. I spent yesterday playing along to various cover tunes, and I had a really good time. And that is all I ask from a guitar. So yeah, I would say it's worth it. You can definitely buy a cheaper kit. Generally, the less money you spend, the more work you have to do to it. You know, I can't recommend BYO Guitar enough. I have had really, really good luck with their stuff. Solo Music Instruments, their double neck kit was pretty good. The wood was good, the hardware not so good. I like this, and I'm going to say it's worth it. But you can do a cheaper project, unquestionably. I'd say if you realistically want to have a very good instrument, $200 for a kit, and then another $200 for better electronics hardware and pickups is not unrealistic. So $400. This is $450, shipped free to my house, and I love the way it turned out. So thank you for following this video. An unusually large number of people have tuned into this, probably because of the whole COVID-19 thing. If you're sheltering in place, I hope you are staying safe and staying sane. I won't do another guitar project probably this year, but I will be putting out guitar pedal videos. That was supposedly the reason I created this channel, and I have a lot of videos to do. I try and create videos again, I'm not a professional. I'm not going to try and convince professional players of anything, but if you're a home player like me and you want to know, is a certain expensive pedal worth it, or how do I set up MIDI? Well, I'm going to try and work through some of those issues with you from the ground up, and maybe you'll follow along with that. But even if you don't watch any of my other videos, I appreciate you for watching this one. I've been Reed, and this has been Man Cave Guitar Pedal Mania.